G'day, Geoff Lewis here from Seriously Series. Today what I thought I'd do is something a little bit different. As you can see, I'm in the shed once again on the Landy Cave, and I've been out bush for a month or so everything's a little bit, well, some people say disorganised, but it's organised chaos, I assure you. But I thought I'd tell you a story about something that happened to me end of last year when I was actually out filming an epic adventure as always, on the Holland track. Everything went fine, but it came to a calamitous end, and it involved a bit of nylon cord that saved the day, and a fan belt that I'm no longer a fan of. And yes, that was a dorky dad joke in there. So if you'd like to hear this story and more, then you know what to do. Stay tuned. Rightio, so before you ask, no, it didn't happen in the Series 3, it happened in the Series 2. The Series 2's sunbaking at the moment. It's going to be a bit of a warm one here today, 37 degrees Celsius, so I'm out in the shed a little bit early, just trying to get a few things done. Anyway, get on with the story, I hear you say. Well, that's what we're going to do. So, the Land Rover Series 2 was built in 1961, I believe December of 1961, so it's the last of the Series 2s, I believe. Anyway, I thought, well, end of last year, it's going to be turning 59 years old, why don't I go out and celebrate that by doing a trip? So I thought, let's go do the Holland track. I'd wanted to do it for ages, I'd done it a few years previously, but why not do it again? And why not do it in a proper vehicle, a proper Land Rover? So I thought, why not? So I topped up all the fluid levels, checked all the nuts and bolts, and chucked the camping gear in the back, and off I went. And it was a fantastic trip. The Land Rover went superbly. The only little mishap I had was that the earth wire on the sender unit actually snapped off. So the fuel gauge didn't work. But that's not a bad thing because they've got a square tank underneath the driver's seat, so you just get your knuckle and you just tap on the side of the tank and you can see roughly where the fuel level is. Pretty easy, hey? So that's what I did, and I just topped up the tank so it was chock-a-block full, and I knew I'd make roughly the 250 kilometres to get to the end of the track. I had a couple of spare jerry cans, so I was laughing. And it was a fantastic trip. Took about 4 days. I think I did roughly must have done about 1,000 kilometres, so what's that in miles? Maybe, I don't know, 600 miles, something like that. And it was great. I met some wonderful people along the way. I met 2 blokes who were out there doing exactly the same thing. One was in a more modern FJ Land Cruiser, and the other one was in I think 2008 or 2010 Hilux, and they were both red, the vehicles. And if you didn't know, red cars are faster than any other car out there. That's why fire engines are red, so they can get to the fire quicker. Yeah, full of useful facts here. Anyway, so yeah, it was great. It was great. It was a bit warm. It was about 40 degrees centigrade on the first day, and then it dropped down to about, I think, 32. But anyway, I got to the end of the track. I was on the Victoria Rock Road, which is sort of a main drag or gravel road, and I thought, this is great. I've got here, it's 12 o'clock, midday. I'll have a bit of lunch. I'll get home to Kalgoorlie, which is about probably 100 kilometres away. I'll get there at a good time. I can unload the car and I can get into things back in the shed the following day. Never ever think like that. I should know by now. Once you start thinking like that, that's when everything goes to something that smells like brown. Or you go up a stream and it all goes brown and you lose your paddle. It's not much fun. I'd had the tyres deflated on the Series 2 down to about 20 psi because the track itself is, pretty corrugated. There's a few sort of little washouts, which are sort of little areas where waters run across the track and creates like a little bit of a trench. So it just makes it a lot easier on the suspension if you drop your tyre pressures. Makes the ride a lot nicer, and it doesn't impact on the track as much either. So when I got to the end of the track, I was like, okay, I'll better pump them up, do the right thing. So I got the air compressor and I put it on the front of the Land Rover in between the two wings. And the air compressor that I've got has 2 alligator clips. So I put them on the battery, and then I thought, I better start the motor up because I don't want to drain the battery and then be stranded. Fair call. So I went in the cab, turned the key on, pressed the ignition, and everything just went brown after that. There was a bang, and I thought, what the hell is that? I raced around to the front of the car, had a look in the engine bay, had a look at the air compressor. Air compressor hadn't moved. It was fine. The motor was purring away. It was fine. But then I looked closer, and I looked closer, and that's when I realised something really bad had happened. Somehow, the alligator clips that were clipped onto the battery terminal way over here had become amalgamated with the water pump. How, I hear you say, how is that possible? Well, without using the power of foresight, and obviously not thinking straight because I was off daydreaming, thinking I'd get home at a reasonable time, somehow the leads, the positive and negative leads from the compressor to the battery, got caught by one of the fan blades. It wrapped around the water pump a couple of times. The bang was of the air compressor, the case which it's in, hitting up against the front of the car. And what makes it even worse is the sharp side of the alligator clip, or one of the alligator clips, cut through the fan belt, didn't it? So this was just swinging in the breeze. Many of you are watching this now and thinking, well, geez, that's not that bad, Geoff. I've seen a lot worse, and you've probably come up against a lot worse. That's right. Spot on. So after seeing all that, I switched the car off and I delved into the toolbox, which is underneath the passenger seat. And for 5 years, I've kept a spare fan belt in there. That's right, 5 years. But not that day. 6 months earlier, I'd taken it out to put on the Series 3 here because I needed a fan belt. And what didn't Geoff do? I didn't go and replace it, did I? So I'm 60 kilometres south of the nearest town. I haven't got a fan belt. I've got a UHF radio, and I've got an EPIRB, and I've got a mobile phone with no signal. It's not looking good, is it? I had plenty of water, plenty of food, and after a little sing-song to myself, I just went over and I sat under a tree and I had some lunch, a sip of water, and a good long hard think of what I was going to do. Now in situations like this, and I won't prattle on too long, but I think it's worth noting there's a couple of things you can do. The first thing you can do is you can run around like a chicken with its head cut off. Fair call. You can get completely distressed and go in your car and then just pull the tag on the EPIRB and just say someone else's problem. Or you can just go under a tree, sit down, boil the billy if need be, do as I did, have a drink of water, count to 10, stay there for 10 minutes, stay there for an hour if you need, and just calm down and get your composure back. Because let's be honest, we've all done it and we all end up learning that it doesn't actually do anything. If you run around like a chicken with its head cut off, or you start freaking out, you're no good to no one. So you need to calm down, and you need to think about how much water you got, how much food you've got, and what kind of tools you've got, and whether you think that you yourself can actually have a half decent crack at getting your vehicle going again. So anyway, I started thinking about what kind of gear I brought with me, what kind of equipment. And then I thought about motorbikes. And you probably think, why am I thinking about motorbikes? And I was actually thinking about early motorbikes. And this is where any bit of useless information will always become useful. So what I did is I thought about the motorbike. And the motorbike, when it was invented, actually didn't have a chain. It used a leather belt, and this leather belt would have to be retensioned, depending if it got wet or if it got dry. And I thought, that's interesting. And then I thought about the old trick of using a stocking to wrap around the pulleys, and that can get you out of trouble. Now, I'm kinky enough as it is. I take a teapot camping with me, but taking a set of pantyhose is maybe going a little bit too far. So, I'm going to suffer because of it, surely, but I just want to keep a little bit of dignity, or the little bit that's left, so I don't take pantyhose with me. But anyway, and I thought, well, why don't I look at what rope I've got? Because I take a canvas tarpaulin with me for a bit of shade and shelter. And anyway, I had a look and I had some hemp rope. But the gauge of the rope, or the thickness of the rope, was too much. It wasn't going to work. So I had a look through and I had all this nylon cord. And I'd been using this nylon cord as guide rope. And I thought, well, nylon's not great. We know that it stretches, but it might be better than nothing. So what I did is I got the old fan belt, and then I thought, well, maybe I can get this to work. Maybe if I just tape it together, and wishful thinking, it'll work and I'll just get into Coolgardie. Well, even with fingers and toes crossed, it didn't really work at all. It literally just fell off. So that was out the window. But I came back to the nylon cord, and what I did is I put this on the wing of the Land Rover, and I just traced it out with the nylon cord. I made it a little bit longer to account for the knot that I was going to tie. And then what I did is I just cut it with my pocket knife and then tied it together. I then loosened up the alternator and I pushed that towards the engine. And then I looped it round the 3 pulleys. So there's one around the water pump, there's one around the crankshaft and one around the alternator, or if you've got a generator, similar thing. And then I got the tension just right, tightened it up, turned the motor on, and it failed. It failed another 6 times, but on the 7th try, see, it's not 3rd time lucky, it's 7th. On the 7th time, I got a winner. And I got this one here. It was an absolute pearler. And I drove for 40 kilometres using this. And it wasn't enough to get the alternator spinning around, but it was enough just to keep the water pump going. And the man upstairs, you can be biblical or not, but someone upstairs either way, he had ensured that there was a cool breeze, a cool headwind coming my way. And that makes a big, big difference if your car's overheating. If you're driving along and you've got a tailwind that's nice and cool, your car's overheating, turn it round and point it into the wind, leave it for half an hour. Because that wind, or that breeze, is going to go through the radiator, it'll actually cool the car down a lot quicker. So I had that on my side, so that was helping the cooling system too. But 40 kilometres down the road, it disintegrated. So the car started getting hot, got up to about, I think, 90, getting close to 100, not very good at all. So I turned it round. Sorry, I didn't have to turn it round because it was a headwind, wasn't it? So I just pulled off the road, and I put it in the direction of the breeze, and I just waited for half an hour, 40 minutes, and it cooled right down. I then had another couple of attempts, and I made another fan belt, and that got me another 15 kilometres. And then I made one final one, and that got me into the township of Coolgardie. When I got there, I then had to charge my mobile phone because that had gone flat, and I'd forgotten to take the inverter with me. Called a mate. I said, look, I've got a heap of fan belts in the shed, and I've got that may fit. I've got one on the Series 3. Can you take that off and can you bring it out? And so we did. We fitted a new fan belt, and in the cover of darkness I got back home to Kalgoorlie. So in my mind, that is not a breakdown, it is a temporary stop. And the reason why I wanted to share this isn't, I don't think I'm a very egotistical person, and I'm not doing this to try and glorify myself and say I'm an absolute whiz. No, because there's many of you that are probably tempted and maybe have even typed in the comments section down below saying, Geoff, you're a complete nut at Burke. And thank you for validating that. I already knew it, but now I really do know. I've made mistakes, but I've learnt from it. And the whole point of this video is that when you get in those tight situations, take your time. Don't rush. Think about what you have. The first thing you need to look at is, how much water do I have? How much food do I have? Do I need shelter? Am I okay? Are you hurt? And mentally too, you have to take care of it upstairs here. Calm down, get composed, and move on with it. Have a little sing-song to yourself. You've got to vent it out. There's nothing wrong with that. But you've got to move on. You've got to keep moving forward. And just something for the naysayers here too. When you're out in the bush and you're out in the thick of it, and as I've said, when certain brown stuff hits a certain fan, whether that tool is meant for that job or not, whether it is not the best thing to use or not, it doesn't matter. If it gets you home, it gets you out of trouble, and you're able to tell a tale or two, then that's all that matters. That's all that matters. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you, and hopefully, you've enjoyed it and it wasn't too much of a drag on you. And if you want to hear more stories like this, then let us know, because this isn't the first time something like this has happened, and it won't be the last by a long shot. And Damon's had similar experiences too. So anyway, hopefully this video has been of use to you. And if you find yourself in a similar situation as to what I was in, then hopefully it might come flooding back to you and obviously be some use to you. But I guess one of the key things I sort of want to drive home is that give it a go. If you make a mistake, then learn from it. And that's what happens. We just keep on learning. There's no such thing as experts out there. Anyway, if you want to see more videos like this, then please be sure to support us on Patreon by clicking on the Patreon icon at the top right hand corner of your screen. Check it out, see what you think, and look, if it isn't your cup of tea, don't worry. You can support us via our website at seriouslyseries.com.au by clicking on the web link in the content section down below. And if you're new to the channel, or you've been enjoying the videos for a while, then please do consider supporting us by clicking on that subscribe button down below. Click on that notification button too, and that way you won't miss out on one single video. Anyway, hope to see you in our next video.